Hey guys, this is lesson 1.4. Here are our first two definitions. This is a ray. It is a line with one endpoint. And it can be called either ray AB or AB with a ray above it. Notice it only has one arrow. Next we have an angle. This is two rays that intersect at their endpoints. The vertex is always the middle letter. So notice B is the vertex here. This is always the middle when you're talking about the angle, like you would say angle ABC. It is always B is the middle because it's the vertex. And for an example, this ray down here, this can be written as DF with a ray above it, or DN. So it can be written either way. Alright, next slide. Okay, here's the angle bisector. This is a segment or ray that cuts an angle into two congruent parts. You can tell they're congruent because of these little markers right here on the angles. This shows you that these two angles are congruent and it got cut in half. Segment bisector is a line or segment or ray that cuts a segment into two congruent parts. So this line here cut it into two congruent parts. I know they're congruent because of these lines right here. These show that AB is cut into half. Okay, next definition. Okay, here is an obtuse angle. It is an angle greater than 90 degrees but less than 180. Alright, and here are some examples, some of obtuse angles, and here are some that are not obtuse. Alright, here's on to the next vocab. Okay, here is a right angle. It is an angle that makes a 90-degree angle. And here are some examples of a right angle. These are also make perpendicular lines up. You usually see it with a half square there, right here. So that's the symbol for a right angle or 90 degrees. Here are some examples of angles that are not 90 degrees. Alright, next example. Okay, here is an acute angle. This is an angle that is smaller than 90 degrees. Here is an example, like 40 degrees. That is an acute angle. Here are some other acute angles. These are not acute. A 90-degree angle is not acute. Alright, let's look at an example. Okay, here we have a parallelogram with two sets of congruent line segments. So the way you would write it is AB, line segment AB is congruent to line segment DC because they have the same markings. They each have two markers. And then with the other lines, we would write them as, we would say AD is congruent to line BC. It's a horrible B, but hey, you get the point. So here they are congruent to each other, but not all four are congruent. That's the difference. We have two sets of congruent lines. They would be, only AB and DC would be the same, and only AD and BC would be the same. Alright, on to the last example. Alright, these markers right here, they show that these two angles are congruent. This example is just to show you that these two angles are congruent, which means they are the same. They are the same degree measure. They would both, for this picture, they would both be acute angles. Alright, that's it for this lesson. Bring any questions you have in tomorrow before school or during class. Thank you.